Welcome to Get the Facts, the show that gives you information on the latest topics. I'm Theodore Henry. In our last episode, we explored how crop farmers can prepare for the hurricane season. And today, we'll be shifting our focus to livestock farmers and similarly explore how they can get ready to weather the storm season. Joining us is Maxine Brown, Senior Livestock Specialist from the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA. Welcome to Get the Facts, Lady Brown.
Thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to be able to share critical information with our livestock farmers to secure their livelihood.
Well, let's get to sharing some of that critical information. Now, how do you prepare livestock for a storm?
Okay, so the first thing that farmers want to do when they hear that we're having a storm or hurricane, whatever disaster is, impending, is that you want to check on your animals because the animals are your livelihood. So you want to do an assessment of them. You want to make sure they are tagged. Because should in case they get loose, you can have the information, and also because you'll be documenting information on your animals. You want to know how many vulnerable animals you have because you may have some younger animals that may need particular attention. You want to see which animals are your prized animals, so you want to make sure you have data on them. You also sometimes some persons take pictures of them if they don't have any tags to tag them. There are some temporary markers that you can use to mark them, just in case they may get loose, and also you want to have information on them. And if you have your information that is digital, you want to store that information, you want to back it up in the cloud or have extra copies of it. So you just want to make sure that your animals are in the best health before the storm occurs. You also want to have a first aid kit on hand because what you want to do, you want to make sure that after the hurricane and you're assessing your animals, if you see any cuts, any bruises, etc., you can treat it right away so that you do not have problems with screwworm or sometimes pneumonia might try to set in. So you want to have the medication for the animals. You have some animals that may be on medication. You want to get extra. So some animals, you may have had the vet had assessed them and they're on antibiotics. So you may want to get extra antibiotics because you don't know what will happen after a storm.
Blocked, this could
Exactly.
happen,
So a first aid kit is critical for every farmer to make sure that your animals can bounce back as quickly as possible. So after you have assessed your animals and you have done the necessary documentation of your animals, you also now want to check the infrastructure because you want to make sure that their housing, their accommodation is also sturdy enough to withstand the storm.
But what happens? Sorry, let me jump in here. What happens if, for example, you're in a sort of lower place? Should you make plans to evacuate at the time if you see flooding, or should you just get them out even before the storm?
So that is critical. You try to get them out before the flooding because remember, if a flooding is occurring, you don't want to be out there as well at that time. So that is why you have to have a plan for your farm in terms of your evacuation plan. So for animals that you use to tie in low-lying areas, some persons used to love tying their animals near to rivers, etc. You want to move them to a higher elevation. For animals that you have in structure, you want to check the structure. So for your poultry farmers, you want to make sure that there are no loose zinc. You want to make sure that you have enough tarpaulin to secure to cover the mesh because
the wind will be blowing.
Exactly, wind and rain will be blowing in. For the small ruminant farmers like your sheep and goat farmers, you also want to check your structures because you don't want zinc flying and probably cutting the animals, etc. So you want to secure your infrastructure. Persons can use hurricane straps now to secure the roof as best as possible. I see some persons, and because they were late in the game in terms of security, they may have to be using building blocks.
On the
top of the roof, just like what they do in their
hazard.
house. Exactly, because it too can, blow off and cause problems. So you want to secure your facility. You also want to store extra feed and extra water for your animals. Because you do not know when you'll be getting access to water if there's anything that is happening. So you have your tank, make sure you store water, make sure you store extra feed, but take precaution to secure the feed because you don't want the feed to get wet. If it get wet, it can get moldy and it can cause problems with your animals as well. And you want to secure it from rodents. So make sure that it's secured properly. If you have your generator, make sure your generator is up and running because
service.
Exactly, you want to make sure that you can still continue production after the hurricane. You also want to make sure that the animals, whatever implements you have that you use to to work with them, your husbandry, the tools that you use for your husbandry practices, like your hoof trimmers, etc. Your milking cans for dairy farmers. You want to take those out and to secure them elsewhere.
I need to ask something right here, though. You mentioned ruminants, you mentioned birds. Are there any animals that are particularly vulnerable during a storm?
So the animals that are really vulnerable are especially poultry, because you really cannot move them from their location.
Yeah.
We have the tunnel house operators, and their structure is fairly sturdy. And so for the other operators, the other backyard operators, which is why I was indicating you have to use your hurricane straps, use your tarps to prevent things from blowing in. I know sometimes we have the very small farmers who sometimes will take up their chickens, and you'll see stories how they spread newspaper in the bathroom, and that is where they carry them.
Right.
Because sometimes they have the day-old chicks as well, or probably chicks that are just 2 weeks old.
Have to
And
secure
the
those,
quantities that they have is sufficient for them to can store it in a room, or like I said, they said sometimes even in the bathroom they carry it to secure it. Because remember, after the hurricane, this is what is going to help you to bounce back. That is your livelihood.
Right.
So these animals are especially vulnerable. Other vulnerable animals may include like animals that are pregnant, and for the very young animals. And so, which is why it's critical to say, even after the hurricane, you have to be monitoring these animals, because sometimes sometimes the impact is not seen immediately. It's not that they are drowned or probably they got any large laceration, any big cuts that you couldn't treat. It may be now pneumonia that is starting to set in. We have what they call hoof rot, because if they're standing in water for too long, then it gets soft, then they start to have foot issues. So these are some of the things that we have to pay attention to. So the pregnant animals, the younger animals, and even sometimes your older animals too.
Got it.
They're basically almost like people, We'll
Yeah.
say these are the vulnerable.
Got
Vulnerable.
it. We've gotten so much interesting information. We're going to take a break right now, and the discussion will continue with Maxine Brown, Senior Livestock Specialist from the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA. Welcome back. We're continuing our conversation on livestock farmers and how they can protect their farm during a hurricane, as well as things they should be doing now since we are in the hurricane season. The discussion continues with Maxine Brown, Senior Livestock Specialist from the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA. Lady Brown, we're looking at the space in which the animals are, looking at the housing, making sure you have things before and after, you have extras. And it strikes me, as it is with agriculture, crops, that what you do at the pre-preparation phase, even where you even decide to build your thing, because the hurricane season comes every year,
Exactly.
matters. But tell me a little bit about RADA now. How does RADA help throughout the hurricane season?
Okay, so RADA is very important to the farmers because, number one, we provide technical information. So we give you the information in terms of how to properly secure your animals. So as soon as we know that we're entering the hurricane season, we start to remind farmers. We start to put information on our Facebook page or Instagram, do interviews similar to this. We have WhatsApp groups in which the officers are reminding farmers. And we also...
Based on different areas?
Exactly.
Okay.
And we have also training sessions that we do with farmers, because you have to do the theory session, but you also have to do the practicals to show them some of the things that need to be done. So we do a lot of sensitization and reminding of the farmers, and to help them to navigate. We can help you to say, well, where it is that you have your farm, what it is that you need to do. If it is that you need to tag your animals, we can show you how to tag your animals, the practical part of it, to show you how to tag your animals so that you can be documenting information. We also, through the ministry, get some amount of funding, and through the other stakeholders as well, to be able to support some farmers, because we know sometimes, even with the best of intention and they know what to do, sometimes it's really just difficult for them to be able to do the right things. So we have programs where we try to assist farmers with, like lumber and zinc and nails to secure their housing. We have also provided shaft machines to cut up grass so that they can make what we call silage for goat and sheep farmers. And this is so that after the hurricane, they'll be able to still have access to feed for their animals. Where it is possible, we teach farmers also how to make hay. Because hay is just dried grass and you compress it and they can have that for
It's the
even much
bales.
longer. Exactly.
Right.
Hay as well. We also provide for our poultry farmers, we provide defeathering machines to make their production more efficient so that they're minimizing losses. We also provide watering equipment. So like for the goats, again, we provide water bowls so you can minimize the amount of water you're using because you don't want to have any wastage.
Yeah, and this
Again,
is
too,
pretty important in a hurricane when
exactly.
your normal water flow might be interrupted.
For the broiler farmers, we also assist them with materials to strengthen their housing, any other small implements that they will need, so like the waterers and the feeders, so that they can minimize losses again in terms of wastage of feed and water, because everything is going to be so important and everything is also
Yeah.
playing into the cost of your production. So those are some of the things that we do before. We have programs that we try to assist farmers in being able to secure their livelihoods. And we also do a lot of sensitization, trainings, reminders,
Site visits.
site visit, and which is why I said the practical things to say,
Right.
well, to help them to tag their animals. So yes, we do the site visits to can say what are some of the things that you need to do. Do you need to build a drain because where you have your farm, you know, you can have flooding. We advise persons, like you say, to do elevated goat housing, not so much the flat structures because they are easy to be flooded. You know, so it's
You mentioned hoof rats standing in the water throughout
exactly
the duration of the
exactly.
storm. Okay, so all of that pre-preparation throughout the season, you can get that support. But a storm has struck.
Okay.
A storm has struck. There is damage. There is devastation. Is there anything specific RADA might do to help with recovery?
Okay. So what we do first of all is to, and the farmers also have a role to play, is to contact RADA as soon as possible to document the damage that you have suffered or what loss you have suffered, take pictures of your animals, etc.
Right.
Because remember too, we try to get out in the communities as quickly as possible to do our assessment, but sometimes you may have roads that are blocked that we can't get to the community as well, or flooding that have taken place. But what we try to do is do a quick assessment of the losses, because now we have to document how much is it going to cost us to be able to can help the farmers to recover.
I see.
So that is a rapid assessment that is done until we can go fully into communities and do a more detailed assessment. And that is the information that the ministry actually use to try to lobby with external stakeholders or to look at whatever resources they have to see how they're going to be spreading the resources, like you said, which category of animals or which crops may need, you know, that support, and which parish seem to have suffered the most damage.
Yeah, we
to be
usually get
able
that stuff.
exactly.
So
to
it's a
do all of that.
partnership.
Exactly.
The farmer has to report. RADA gets that report. We work with the ministry. Interesting. You've given us a lot to chew on, and I want you to help somebody who is watching here now. Direct them to where they can get more information.
Okay, so in every parish we have a RADA office, so they can call 1-888 Ask RADA.
Right.
As well as they can check our Instagram page or Facebook page, you know, and the RADA officers are present in every parish. As a matter of fact, which is why I'm wearing the shirt RADA Connect,
Yeah.
because it's a new initiative by our CEO, Mr. Garnet Edmondson, to really get into some of the deep rural areas where sometimes you hear persons say, boy, you have to climb hill and go down gully and go through to
Have you done
really
that?
to see that, to encourage farmers
Yes.
to register, because when you are registered, that is how we're able to plan for you.
Right.
So these are some of the ways that they can contact RADA. And because the initiative has just started, and so we're going more and more out in the parishes, and we're digitizing information as well. We have created an app where farmers can request a visit
Nice.
to their farm as well.
Nice.
And there's more to come.
There's more to come.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for all of that. It's all the time that we have for today. With us has been Maxine Brown, Senior Livestock Specialist from the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA. Thank you for joining us, and thanks to you, our viewers, for tuning in.